comic books, movies, TV, and more. Nerds are everywhere. It's time to assemble! It's Nerds United.
Hello and welcome to a brand new Nerds United on the Jittery Monkey Podcast Network. I'm your host, Greg Mahochko, and joining me is the co-host of the year and no longer a college football virgin. That is Mr. Mike Luther, because as we recorded this on Saturday night, 24 hours ago, we were freezing our nips off in Champaign, Illinois for the Fighting Illini versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. It was a cold night. It was a late night. It was a victorious night for my Huskers. And Mike, I don't know if you ever really pledged allegiance, but you did wear some red, so I appreciate that.
I am now a Nebraska fan until somebody else buys me tickets and takes me to their game.
That's fine.
Just putting that out there. No, I had fun. Yes, it was freezing cold. Yes, I didn't realize that they had commercial breaks that they took, plus 57 timeouts and 37 injuries.
That's about right.
And I felt bad for Greg because, well, he was driving and he had to drive back the 2.5 hours,
Give or take.
And so he was a little tired.
A little bit.
Granted, Greg was also the one that wanted to stay the entire time. So,
And so did Garrett.
No, Garrett for sure wanted to leave immediately. After kickoff, Garrett said, "Hey, can we go now?"
But he changed his mind after we got some food in him.
Nope. He would, if you at any point in time you would have said, "Hey, you know what? We can get going if you want." He would have said, "Okay."
So I want you to contextualize this.
Mm-hmm.
College football, much like the NFL, is a 60-minute game. 60 minutes of clock time. Four quarters, true. 15 minutes. Last night's game went 3 hours and 47 minutes, and it started at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So now, granted, still it was a good game. I know very little about football, but I know enough to know when Nebraska was doing good, and also know when Nebraska fucked up.
We did both.
Excuse my language. Yes. Luckily, we did enough good and not enough. The messing up part wasn't as bad.
I like
or
how
at least the other team messed up more, I should say.
That they did. I like how after one game, you are already calling it we.
I tried not to because I think it sounds weird, but now and I told you, I said, would I watch like a football, like if I'm just sitting at home, would I watch a full football game known as 4 hours long? Probably not, but I would catch a decent amount of it. My only problem is now I don't know where Nebraska. I know October 21st is their next game. By the way, I looked that up against another team that has an N.
Northwestern.
Oh, I was going to guess other Nebraska, but
also an Illinois team because they play up Evanston, Illinois.
Okay, well, I don't know where to watch that at because I don't think it's on Hulu or Netflix. Is it on Hulu or Netflix?
You watch it in my house.
That's a lot. Did you stay awake? I think you probably stay awake during the games, don't you? Even on the recliner.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Nice.
Even if it's a night game, I will stay awake for them.
Yes.
Usually because, again, as we talked about before the show, my phone is in the other room on the charger. But so one of my other podcasts is the 5 Heart Podcast, and that is the number 5 Heart podcast on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. So I very often tweet reactions throughout the game, or I don't know the new version, the action verb of on the X platform. But I'm very engaged. It's one of the few things I don't fall asleep for.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of 5 Heart Podcast, Greg got recognized at the game.
It's true. In the line for a brisket sandwich.
Yes.
A guy texted me. I was, a lot of Nebraska fans, they travel very well. And so it's a Nebraska fan, me, and then more Nebraska fans behind me. Texted me on the street, he's like, "Hey, are you do you have that show on YouTube for Corn Nation? I said, yeah. He's like, dude, I love that show, man. Go Big Red. So.
And then Greg said, also, I have a show called Nerds United. Just
also occasionally on YouTube.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, I don't care about that.
I don't know. We're all but nerdy, for something. So
now Nebraska is 3-2, I believe. No, 3-3. 3-3.
They have a bye week. They have some winnable games ahead. They should go, knock on wood, they should go to a bowl game this year. Okay. Which, as my podcast buddy Haas likes to point out, they haven't been to a bowl game since the Obama administration.
Okay. Well, that's time for change then.
I agree. And I think the funniest part about yesterday is Garrett and I ran some errands before we went to pick you up, and he was singing an old song from like the 1970s, and he was singing the wrong words. Like, I knew exactly the tune that he had, so I said, I'm gonna put that on. I'm gonna put that song in. And it was Pure Prairie League's Amy.
Okay.
Waiting for that to kick in. Like, I know that song.
Nope.
I don't want to sing it, but okay, I will. But so basically, that just started from the time I shortly after I picked him up from school to the time we got to Champaign. Like, we were playing fun games like in the car, like guess games and your wavelength game, which is a lot of fun, and things like that. But there was this underlying, a little bit of like old, I don't know, classic rock, but like old school music that was really enjoyable for me personally. So.
By the way, that was not the funniest part of the yesterday. The funniest part of yesterday was the games he created, which were guess the number 1 through 10, where he thought of a number, you had to try to guess it, and that's it. There was no. I tried to do like, okay, well, maybe we can do higher, lower. No, he's just like, no, let's just do this. I'm like, okay, fair. And then guess the animal. Which was going to be literally just think of an animal. You have to guess it. We changed that one. Luckily, we changed that one to like it was like almost like a 20 questions, which we had done before.
Yeah,
and then him just falling asleep in the middle of the game. I think when it was his turn. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was. I think he was the one we were guessing to him, and like, but buddy.
Oh, and then so we played, and I love this. We played Wavelength, and I don't know if people played it before, but it's 1 through 10 type of thing. And he told us his pattern, which was, hey, I had 10 first, and then my next guess was 9, and then my next guess was 8. Do you see the pattern, guys? And then so we
picked up on the
7. We both guessed 7. Like, you're right, guys. And then we guess 6. You're right, guys. like, you haven't changed your pattern. He goes, did you guys guess it? Like, yes. Oh, very great kid. Great kid.
Great kid.
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, last week on the show, we talked with Kevin Huntsberger for My 1, 2, 3 Cents the podcast, another podcast here on the Jerry Monkey Podcast Network. And we talked quite a bit about wrestling. So we didn't get an opportunity to, really discuss our stuff at all, which was fine. We wanted to have Kevin on, and it finally worked for his schedule and ours. But one of the things we didn't get to do was we didn't get to share with the listeners our recent comic shop acquisitions, are the spoils of war, so to speak. I know you have been to the comic shop as recently as today, so I thought I'd let you go and tell everybody what you picked up.
Okay. Before I do that, I'm just going to real quick tell you what I finished reading. I finished reading Once and Future, Volume 2, Old English. Oh, right there. Very good. I enjoyed the first volume, and this second volume is even better. It's a perfect sequel, I would say. I won't say much about it, but if you like King Arthur, then hey, check it out. It's got a King Arthur esque modern twist on it. I say grandma fighting monsters with her grandson. And then I haven't finished this one yet, but the other ones, the ones I picked up, I picked up, and by the way, I didn't realize that I kind of have a horror theme with these, and that's not on purpose. That's not because it's around Halloween time. But I picked up.
I'm sorry. Did you say
horror?
Okay. Just making sure.
Depends what you think of horror. It could be the other word too. Up to you. I got the newest issue of Grimm, issue 13. I'm really curious about how many issues. Is it going to be just an extended run? Is it going to be 20 issues? I'm thinking extended run. I think I'm just going to keep going until they run out of an idea, and I'm okay with that. And then I picked up Deceased.
Ooh.
Yes, this collects Deceased 1 through 6 and Deceased A Good Day to Die, number 1. And to be honest with you, I picked it up because I do like Batman. He's on the cover, but I was flipping through and I saw somewhere on here John Constantine, sorry. And
is that DC's version of like Marvel Zombies?
I would guess so. I don't 100% know. I honestly like. Okay, so I'll tell you. I'm searching for something that's popping out, at me because I picked up something else, but I was like, I can't just come here and grab this. Like, I got to pick up comic books when I'm here, at Heroic Adventures, Edwardsville, Illinois. That's how I get paid, by the way. I don't get paid. And so I was looking, and honestly, one of them that I saw that I was like, ooh, this would be good. It was Batman and the Ninja Turtles. Here's the problem, though. They had volume 2. They had volume 3. They didn't have volume 1. Now, granted, I could have asked and said, hey, can you order me volume 1? And they would have done it. But I looked, and they had an omnibus. And can you guess what the price of that omnibus was? Which I did not get, by the way. But first, volume 1, 2, and 3 of Batman and Ninja Turtles.
So 3 volumes.
3 volumes.
Maybe 18 issues. Does that sound pretty fair? Yeah. I'm going to say probably $85.
$100.
Ooh.
Yeah. Mike doesn't have that kind of money. So I didn't get that. But the other one I did get is I got Gideon Falls.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Okay. Now, here's what I know about this is when I started getting into Jeff Lemire and started like, well, what else has he written? Gideon Falls was always the book that came up. And I just never picked it up. Whenever I would go to the comic book shop, I'd never thought about it. So I'm literally just going through all the books, just seeing what pops out. And all of a sudden I see Gideon Falls. I'm like, wait a minute, clicks in my brain. And I pick it. I see Jeff Lemire. I'm like, okay, that's right. I pick it up. I don't even read the back of it. Right. I don't know if that, Greg, if you do that ever. In fact, I rarely read the back of them, to be honest with you.
It's got to be something that I've really just never going in completely blind.
Yeah.
Like if the cover art lures me in, then I'll flip through it a little bit, see if the interior art is of a similar vein. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I'll flip back just to get a little like the IMDb plot synopsis type thing. Like, oh, so yeah. Yeah. I saw it was Jeff Lemire.
Also Andrea Sorrentino. I did that perfectly. And Dave Stewart. This is volume 1, The Black Barn. Mark Miller says my personal pick is the best comic of 2018. So it's an older comic, but that's okay. But I did read a little bit about it. And from what has happened so far, there is a preacher that is going into Gideon Falls, which is a town. And they say the preacher lost his way because he was talking to the bishop, and the bishop was like, hey, we need you in this town because the old pastor or preacher died. And, I forget what his name is. The new preacher was like, hey, I lost my way and blah, 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 but I'm here to help. And then we don't find out how the old pastor dies because the new pastor asks, and somebody said, I can't talk about it. I was too close to him. And then we meet a guy that he's kind of in a therapy session. He has like a mask, like the M95, honestly, kind of mask over his face. And he's talking about how the garbage tells him stories and it tells him about evil. And his therapist, he mentions that he's an outpatient, and he does the, if he keeps on like this, he's going to go back in, but he's not a threat to himself, essentially. So you have that part as well. So that's essentially where I ended it at, is this guy talking about how trash is evil, and they're a new pastor going to this town. So I think there's going to be some kind of, like I said, scary part to it, but I'm really enjoying it. And granted, I just started reading it like right before this podcast happened, but I'm enjoying it. And then the last thing I got was I finally got bags.
Oh, nice.
Now, here's the thing. I got silver comic bags. I didn't know there was difference. I just thought
Gold and
bags
silver modern, baby.
Well, they didn't have any whatever kind, and he said they had silver. I didn't get the boards for it, though. I don't know if I need the boards for it.
Conventional wisdom would say yes.
So I'm probably going to have to go and get some boards. I always assumed they came together, but
so I think for an additional feel, like I've been thinking about asking my comic shop, say my like it, there's ownership, but my go-to comic shop, Twilight Comics, Swansea, Illinois, because all the back issues are all bagged and boarded, even if they've only been off the new rack for a couple of months, but there's an added cost. So I'm wondering, like for an extra 50 cents, would you guys just bag and board it that way?
Yeah,
like, that way I don't have to have carry the bags and boards home, or however the math works out. I don't know. I do know that I have. You can't see it, you Mike, and you the viewer, if this part makes it on in a video, or audio, obviously. But the bookshelf behind me that's full of comics. Some of them are trade paperback. A lot of them are like the Berserkers and Grimms and things that I've been reading individual issues, ongoing series. They're not bagged and boarded yet, and that is, well, this entire room needs to be free of chaos. So we'll get there.
Yeah, same.
Well, very cool, man.
All right. I want to hear what you got, because I know you were actually you were about to talk about him last week, and then Kevin came on. Switch
darn that old Kevin. By the way, Gideon Falls. I'm curious in it because Jeff Lemire was nominated for an Eisner Award for Best Writer, but Gideon Falls won Best New Series in 2019, and with Dave Stewart on as color, won for the 2020 Eisner Award for Best Coloring, and was picked up for a television series in June of 2018 with Lemire and Sorrentino both serving as executive producers alongside Jason Brown, Sean Daniel, Kathy Ling, and Dinesh Shamdasani. In October of 19, James Wan, along with the Atomic Monster partner Michael Clear, joined as executive producer. Lemire assured readers that despite television development, the comic will remain his primary focus. Now that's old news. I don't know if there's anything updated as far as if we'd ever see Gideon Falls fully adapted to another medium. So
that'd be cool if it was.
That would have to be like a FX or a stream or like a HBO Max or something like that, based on just my limited knowledge of it. So all right, I'm going to single here. My newest acquisitions, again, Twilight Comics, Swansea, Illinois. If you go back just over a week now, we'll do a little recap and update. And I have read 80% of these comics, which is because it's 4 of them. So we have Dawn of DC's Superman #6. This is taking an interesting turn because in issue 6, I don't know if I maybe said episode. That's not right. But in issue 6, through, I guess, no fault of their own, because Superman is kind of under the assumption of saving the world, and never know what one action will affect in the grand scheme of things. He apparently lets loose a long imprisoned evil that Lex Luthor had actually put away. So interesting to see what happens in issue 7. Like yourself, I also acquired Grimm number 13.
Nice. Perfect.
And like yourself, I have no idea when that will come to any type of conclusion. Which, I mean, it's fine. Like, I feel like we're at a point where the story's not nearly as exciting as it was at the beginning.
I hate to say that, but yeah, I agree.
You know, hopefully we get to a bounce back. And I almost feel like, to put it in an analogy that you will certainly understand. Remember season 2 of Ted Lasso?
Yes.
You have the 2 episodes that were stuck in there because Apple wanted 12 episodes, I think, instead of 10.
Right.
So you got the Christmas episode and the Coach Beard, night after the loss episode that just seemed out of. I feel like we're in the stretch because they wanted more issues episode, period type of thing. So I digress. Also, Gargoyles Dark Ages number 3. Again, perfect continuation to the story before the story that we all know. Read all of those. The one that I am not quite finished with yet, but realistically could finish tonight, depending on how long this recording goes, is the Immortal Thor number 2. Now, I feel like it had been a very long time since Immortal Thor number 1 came out, and then I realized it had, because that was before I went on my work trip to Connecticut, because I took it with me, and that was at the end of August. So I don't know, maybe it's just mistiming, or it arrived a couple days after I went to the comic shop or something like that, so it was sitting there. But I digress. Still, a good story there. It's just, again, it's an unknown opponent for Thor. Someone, a power that he's kind of undermatched, and overwhelmed by. So I was like those. It's hard to think of Thor being an underdog.
True. Yeah.
Because he's, as we learn in Thor Ragnarok, he, at least in his mind, is most powerful Avenger.
Yeah. I mean, I would say he's probably the only time he's an underdog, really, is if he faces me.
Fair. Yes. But there really is only one man, Batman.
That's true.
A couple others that I know I've talked about in the past, but I'm still excited to read. One is the Dark Knights of Steel, Volume 1. Nice. It's still on the to-do list. If depending on how today was not a time for reading comics, so maybe tomorrow will be. And similarly, at least in the same boat, this was just a good heavy book, and that is Kirk Busiek's Astro City. So
I'm curious about that one too.
We'll see what the rest of the weekend holds. If I can finish Immortal Thor number 2 today or tonight, that's a bonus for me. But honestly, we just don't know. So with all that being said and done, Mike, before we get into shows that we watched and things that we're kind of caught up on, easy for me to say, how about we run down a few headlines real quick?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the rumor is out, and you can tell that it comes from Great Britain, England, because they spelled rumor incorrectly. They spelled it RUMOUR. But the rumor is that as Disney's Marvel Studios prepares this X-Men reboot, that our Canadian bruiser, the one and only Logan, a.k.a. Wolverine, not in the initial team lineup.
Yeah. And I think we kind of both had the same thought of love Wolverine, probably one of my favorites, easily top 5 X-Men, but we don't need him in there. I think this is a time to maybe put not every X-Men that's, obscure in there, but one or two that maybe the general public hasn't heard of, and I don't know who they have. Have a Storm. Now, granted, they have the Storm's not an obscure one, obviously, but have a Storm, Cyclops, maybe have a Bishop in there. And granted, Bishop was in whatever one. But it doesn't have to be your main ones. It doesn't have to be the ones you've seen all the time. Have familiar faces with slightly unknown.
So I'm all for Wolverine sitting out, being on the sidelines a little bit, and for a few reasons. One, Wolverine right away became the focus of the X-Men franchise for the last 23 years. We haven't had an X-Men movie without Wolverine. In fact, we've had a lot of Wolverine movies without X-Men. So I'm perfectly fine, especially in the world of it's not going to be Hugh Jackman. You've got to let some time pass. The old absence makes the heart grow fonder. And the more time from Deadpool 3 to whenever Wolverine would appear in the MCU, if it was like 6 months or a year later, you're going to have comparisons. But if they're right next to one another, you're going to get that Deadpool version of Wolverine, which I really do think that people are going to love because, so far everything's looking right. It's Hugh Jackman. It's the blue and yellow, costume. It's everything that I think fans have been wanting for the last 20 years. But if they're side by side like that, then new Wolverine stands no chance. Like, you have to put a little bit of air in between them. And like, they say quite often on some of these wrestling podcasts that I listen to, when a back in the old territory days, when a wrestler would wear out his welcome, so to speak, then he'd go away and learn a new hold type of thing, the nomenclature there. So again, absence makes the heart grow fonder. You don't want to draw immediate comparisons to something. And Wolverine was not in the first iteration of the X-Men. If I could provide just a little timeline, the X-Men comics debuted in September of 1963. X-Men #1. Artist was Jack Kirby. Writer Stan Lee. I mean, Jack Kirby he's defined as co-plotter, so he was in on the story as well. Wolverine did not debut until 1974. So there's a lot of comic or a lot of stories that you can tell without having to get, if we didn't see Wolverine in the MCU from, Deadpool 3 and then maybe go out to like 2030, I'm okay with that. I know that's a big ask for a fan favorite character but imagine, I don't know. Again, I feel like when they do come back, they're going to be embraced that much more than if there's just no real gap there. And again, you're going from Hugh Jackman Wolverine to whomever it may be, not Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be that long of a wait. I don't know, though. I mean, you're right in everything you've said as far as you don't want. I'm sure you hear that all the time at your house. You don't want, the Deadpool and then immediately a new Wolverine. And I do think there's going to be a new Wolverine at some point in time because I think Hugh Jackman is going to get tired of doing it, But I would almost think that they're going to do the X-Men and then Wolverine's going to be the tease at the end. And maybe they won't even have somebody cast yet. You just see the claws pop out.
Do you think that in a way, at least in a similar fashion where like at the end of Shazam, when Superman comes to lunch, like something like that, where again, it's recognizable, exactly who that's supposed to be, but again, you don't have a face to match with it. Yeah.
I'm saying you're going to either see the claws pop out or you'll see from behind, you'll see the hair or something, or maybe the. But again, it won't be cast yet because that'll be it'll be a end credit scene type of thing. So yeah, but I didn't know. So I didn't know if when they were talking about this, if they were talking about the animated X-Men, how they're doing was it X-Men 97, or if they were talking about the eventually doing the X-Men reboot MCU.
So my full understanding is that it's the live action.
That makes sense.
Yeah, full reboot. Reboot, especially when you're talking about like names like Kevin Feige. I mean, not to say Kevin Feige's not involved in the
Oh, did I?
Anime.
Okay. Nope, you're sorry.
Hmm?
You froze, but usually when you freeze, it means my computer actually froze.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's one little nugget. By the way, I did not get my free nuggets today. I did not drive back to Central Illinois just for nuggets.
You're missing out, man.
Now, while we're talking about casting and the movies, so to speak, now that the strike is over and Hollywood's open for business again, I suppose, we have. It was just announced a couple days ago a casting notice for Superman Legacy, as James Gunn is bringing in. I'm going to get this wrong, probably. Eddie Gathegi. Anyway, Mr. Terrific. For those of you speaking of X-Men, X-Men First Class, he played Darwin. He was in that movie, got killed off in that movie, which is a shame. I think that character had a lot of potential. Just didn't make it past the burning embers of Sebastian Stan, I recall. But that actor is going to be in Superman Legacy.
Yes, and I forgot. Did you say who he's going to play?
Mr. Terrific.
Yes, Mr. Terrific. And along with that, I had also I think I'll give it to you or put it out. I can't remember. But there was kind of a rumor of doing some kind of, along with Superman Legacy, Strange Adventure adaptation. Now,
you did tell me that.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because it was talking about Mr. Terrific as well. And obviously, if anybody's read Strange Adventures, Mr. Terrific is a decent part of Strange Adventures. So I don't know. And when they say adaptation, they are just talking about they're going to take what Mr. Terrific did there and apply it to maybe Superman or something, Or if, and I don't see this happening, although it's James Gunn, so who knows if they're actually going to have like Adam Strange in Superman Legacy in some port, or maybe in a movie down the line as well. So regardless, I'm interested in seeing what they do with Mr. Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've ever watched, I think it was on Arrow, either the Arrow or Flash. I think I mix them up, but they did have a Mr. Terrific. So we've had a live action Mr. Terrific.
They did. I believe that was on Arrow.
Yeah, Arrow. They're probably right. And at the time, I didn't know about Mr. Terrific at all. I don't even know if they called him Mr. Terrific, but they did have the T painted on his face.
Yeah. The little T spheres, I believe, is what. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if on Arrow he had those. I think he was just really good at technology. I don't think he had the specific T spheres. He might have, but I don't remember. But this one, I think will. I think he'll have the T spheres, which it kind of sounds ridiculous. But I liked only the thing I had with Mr. Terrific in Strange Adventures is how smart he is, and I think he's like known as like the third smartest person or something. I've heard
he's way up there.
Yeah,
it's like Batman, Greg Mahochko.
Yes, Greg. Yes,
Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific, absolutely. I remember on Strange Adventures. I don't think this is a spoiler, but if it is, fast forward 30 seconds to 20 minutes. Yeah. But somebody was saying like there's a certain language, an alien language that it's just undecipherable. You can't decipher it. And he was like, "No, I learned it last night, and here's this." Just one of those like, right. and everybody was like, "Oh, you just can't." It's a dead language or whatever. He's like, "No, I figured it out."
He's like, "Okay, but then he's the walking, talking Rosetta Stone."
Yes.
So awesome. And great actor. Big fan of his. So, your opinion. I'll ask the question. Do you think the Superman Legacy is becoming too crowded?
Nope. And here's why I say that. Because if it was anybody else than James Gunn, I would say maybe. I would say probably yes. James Gunn knows what he's doing. Think about how many times he has directed, wrote, produced something with multiple characters,
Right.
So I have complete faith in him and what he does. So I'm looking forward to this, and I hope I'm not disappointed when 2025 comes around. And
I apologize. I have to respond to this. Keep going. You're doing a great job. Hosting this show.
Well, if I would have had some more topics. Oh, actually, you know what? We can move on to what we were watching, because there was a couple things that, well, one finished, one started, and one started even more.
Two finished.
Yeah, two finished. So Ahsoka finished.
Yes.
Greg, tell us all about Ahsoka.
It's honestly, this last episode of Ahsoka introduced something I don't think, like, I was honestly surprised by the fan response on social media. I don't think the Star Wars universe needs, which is zombies. I don't know if they call them like death troopers or night troopers or something like that, but they're zombie stormtroopers. I don't think that the Star Wars universe is diverse. I feel like, now hear me out, because I know you're giving me that look. There's plenty of, I'm gonna use the word diversity, but not in the buzzword type that we mean it in 2023. But there are plenty of like options in the Star Wars universe that I don't think you have to reanimate corpses to tell your story. I think it's a, I don't know if it's a trope. I do think it's a cop-out. I think it's writing laziness. I was not a fan of it. That being said, the rest of the show was fun. As someone who just, again, for the umpteenth time earlier this year, watched Star Wars Rebels, this season fired on all these cylinders. When you have Hera Syndulla, you have Sabine Wren, obviously Ahsoka, who was the title character, but probably not as much of the focus as the title character would be. It would be like Boba Fett, the series Boba Fett, where you just said, "Oh, Mandalorian here. We need the Mandalorian." But I don't think Ahsoka needed that. And then Ezra Bridger coming, being found in, I guess, episode 6. I don't know, 6, yeah. One of the last ones. And just maybe not enough focus on Ahsoka, but for somebody who enjoyed Star Wars Rebels, what a great continuation for those characters.
Yeah, Greg has proven what a Star Wars fan he is by talking bad about Star Wars. As we know, that is what Star Wars fans like to do. But here's the thing, Greg, you're wrong on the zombie thing. And I get your point of view, but zombies are always a yes.
But are they?
I'll give you an example, Greg.
Okay.
If I told you, Greg, I have a guest that I want to bring on here, and we click the button and the new window pops up and it's a zombie mic, are you going to say, no, I'm good? No, of course not. You're going to go, I wish there was a zombie Greg. And then I would click another button, and then zombie Greg pops up. It's a 4-way with humans and zombies. Not like that kind of 4-way, Greg. that comes later.
That's cool. That's a
that's for our Patreon.
That's Nerds United After Dark.
Right. You have to pay for that.
Wait. I'm so confused though.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are here.
Yes, we're here.
How can we have zombie versions of ourselves?
They're alternate. It's from a different Earth too. That's where the zombies are, Greg. You should know this. Then they come here. They can talk.
Sounds like it's a recipe for disaster.
Or I mean, that's you. First of all, you put that on YouTube. That's I'm going to say 10,000 views easily.
So what you're saying really is what we need to do here in a few weeks as we get closer to Halloween is put ourselves in some zombie makeup.
Yes.
Jump on these and be like,
yes. Perfect. Yes.
I bite my microphone.
And bonus points if you get the family to do it and they're just
walking around
in the background.
I tell you, Garrett would do it in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, and he would be great at it too.
Because he wouldn't be able to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah,
he would be forming 2 coherent sentences.
Yeah, right.
No, I just that it just sticks in my craw. The addition of zombies in Star Wars. And look, now you're telling me that Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, is going back to Galaxy One, main universe, whatever, with a Star Destroyer full of ready to die and be reanimated. No, it doesn't. Look, they didn't change anything about. There's nothing Star Warsian about these zombie troopers. You kill them the same way you kill any other zombie. You cut off their head. But main universe, it has a severe lacking of Jedi. Obi-Wan can't do it all. You know what I mean? I think what it does is it sets up your antagonist to be too powerful.
Well, then you got to have the protagonist be even more powerful, and they rise up.
I'll say this: Death Trooper, Night Trooper, whatever they're called, had Sabine up, lifted up against a rock, and you find out, yeah, she's got some Jedi power. She used a little force, grabbed the, and I saw it coming, but it didn't take away from my joy. She grabbed her lightsaber from the distance, popped it. I had it right here, and flashed it on, and the lightsaber beam went right through his skull. It was pretty badass.
That is pretty cool.
So a new Jedi being born, I suppose.
Yeah, which rarely happens.
So I'm trying to think now. You have Ahsoka, the ones we know about anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have to forgive my timeline. I believe, yeah. So Obi-Wan Kenobi's dead. Sorry.
Yep.
You have Ahsoka. You have Luke Skywalker somewhere.
Yep.
You have Leia.
Yes.
You have.
Do we have Leia?
Yeah, because it's not. These events take place before the.
Oh, now
Last
okay,
Jedi and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
Because it's post Rebellion, pre Force Awakens. All right, so I'm sorry. Ahsoka, Luke, Leia. You have Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
You have Ezra Bridger. You have the son of Caden Jarrus and Harrison Dula, who you know from Rebels. And you have Sabine Wren. So by my count, the ones we know about, 7 Jedi.
Okay. And then you can double that by having the zombie versions of them. So now we have 14.
No, that's not how it works.
And then there's probably they have kids. So that's 21 now. And then there is George Lucas is just going to write. And he's just going to be like, oh, around the corner, we see, it's actually a school of Jedi that I forgot about.
George Lucas hasn't written a Star Wars movie since 2004. That Star Wars movie became Revenge of the Sith. So you're talking about Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni's not going to. I mean, look, George Lucas made the Skywalkers incestuous. Dave Filoni will not make that mistake.
Or he'll continue it even more.
It is a legacy in Star Wars, right?
Yes. So, all right. Speaking of murders, we also finished.
We're going to say, speaking of incest.
God. Only Murders in the Building, season 3 finished.
Oh,
I enjoyed it.
So satisfying.
I know. And I very satisfying. I think we talked about this actually on the trip up to the game, where and by the way, spoiler alert, has best friend of the show, Josh, finished Only Murders? Does he still listen to this podcast, or is he 75 episodes behind?
I think he's so far behind that it's not, to that point yet.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, sorry, best friend of the show, Josh. But it was very satisfying. Well, it started off in the very last episode. We find out right away who the killer was. The killer basically admits to it.
Right.
I believe, if I remember correctly. But then you find out, because when that's happened, I was like, oh, okay. So we know who did it. There's still 30 minutes left, and granted, I'm going to watch it because I still enjoy the actors.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, it's kind of take the wind out of the sails,
Right.
And then we find out, that person actually didn't do it. They're just claiming they did it in order to save somebody else. So we find out the real one, the real killer of it. And now, granted, part of it was a musical, but I was able to
stomach that part,
it,
God.
and finish watching. I thought about fast forwarding a little bit too. I probably did for like 10 seconds, but I was like, maybe I'll miss something. And then they set up season 4, which I knew that they were doing season 4 because I
don't think I knew that.
Yeah, if you ever go like online, which is a place you should go, they'll have news and stuff. And it popped up on my Facebook, actually, just scrolling through that it had been renewed for a fourth season. And
so you didn't find it; it found you, is what you're telling me.
We found each other. Isn't that what love is about?
Aw,
yeah.
That's
I love online. And it's good, and it's good that they did renew it because it would have been a cliffhanger if they hadn't renewed it,
right?
Because we see Steve Martin's, and again, spoiler alert, we see Steve Martin's sister getting shot.
Nope.
Isn't his sister?
Stunt double.
But I thought it was his sister. It's his sister,
no.
though.
Nope.
I know it's his stunt double. But I also thought they were related.
Nope.
Okay. So, by the way, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Fat Tire Ale.
Oh, nice.
Which is ironic and convenient because I have a big old fat tire around my torso.
Same here.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You had, trust me, that shirt you were wearing last night. Let me tell you how good, folks. Let me tell you how good Mike was looking last night. He's in a Nebraska Go Big Red shirt, a shirt that is awfully tight and snug on me, but it flowed from him like he was a Greek god. Ladies, you could do a lot worse than Mike Luther.
That's a compliment.
Men, you probably too.
Some, I'm sure, have thought about it.
I just, be equal opportunity. Make sure that everybody knows that you're a catch.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So the stunt double gets murdered,
and for the life of me, I can't remember. She's a famous actress, but I can't remember her name to save my life.
Is it Jane
Lynch?
Jane Lynch. Yes,
you were right there with me, man. We were sharing a brain, which is a scary notion.
Yes. What did you said you liked it?
I did. Again, I did not see. So the episode's been out a few days. I'm okay at this point, spoiling a little bit. Everybody comes into it thinking that it's the mom producer, which I think her name's Donna, but it doesn't matter. And she's like, yeah, of course. She actually confesses to it. She says, I did it because she's trying to protect her son, keep his show. He's technically producing it. She wants it to be a success for him, yada, yada, yada. You find out that Nene, she attempted to poison Paul Rudd's character, failed, and in a struggle, the son pushed him down an elevator shaft. Accidentally.
Yeah, because the son found out that he had gotten poisoned, and they kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, it was your mom that did it. And then...
And he pretty much confessed everything.
Yeah. And then he said, hey, only murders happen in this building. And then he pushed him down the elevator.
That's not what he said at all.
I think that was somewhere around there.
But no, it was very good. And I don't bump up against the music as much. In fact, I was telling you more than a couple times since the episode aired, I've gone to YouTube and found the Steve Martin rehearsal video or in the show, the video of the characters rehearsing and his song of which of the Pickwick triplets did it. And I tell you, man, it's just fun because there's a lot of alliteration in this song. There's a lot of unusual words. And he knocked, gosh, Steve Martin's so good.
I'll let you know it's also on Spotify.
I don't think I have the Spotify.
What do you listen to music on?
iTunes Music?
Oh, okay. It's probably on iTunes too.
Probably.
Yep.
But I don't pay for it when I can watch it on YouTube for free.
What do you listen to? Like, do you listen to music when you're like mowing the grass or when you're trying to, pretend you're listening to your wife?
No, I don't. I listen to podcasts quite a bit.
Okay.
And on occasion, I listen to Pandora.
Oh, okay.
So, but I don't pay for that either, so I get commercial breaks.
Yeah. I pay for the old Spotify, but I listen to it a lot. So
I think I used to pay for Spotify. Maybe I still do. I don't know. I gotta look into that.
Well, I guess you listen to podcasts on Apple Play or iTunes, whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because that's so I listen to my podcast on here now, which is not as great as I used to like Stitcher, but Stitcher's gone now.
It's it broke your heart.
Yep. But anyway, you know what didn't break my heart? Loki season 2, episode 1.
I agree, 100%. It was a fantastic burst out the gates.
Yeah, and I remember we were talking about this before, and we were both saying that season 1 of Loki was amazing and way better than WandaVision. And we were talking about that, I remember, and because we both hated WandaVision. And we thought the first episodes of it were really dumb. It got better. Greg's great. I don't know if this is going to make it on video or not. Greg's given me a number 1 signal, meaning yes, that is correct. You are number 1 right.
Are you high?
I wish.
No, I didn't care for the first season of Loki. Not that it was bad. It's just for whatever reason it was a miss for me. So because I'm a dedicated MCU mark, I suppose, I did go in and the teaser, the preview for it, whatever, made it look very intriguing, and I went in and I'll tell you, the first episode I thought was better than the first season combined. So
that's fair. I mean, look, you can't go wrong with Loki and Mobius.
That's a fun duo. Like I think I'm to the point where like I'm such a Owen Wilson like low-key fan.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff. I mean, obviously he's been great with like Vince Vaughn. You talk like Wedding Crashers, but also do you ever see The Internship where they
yes.
get the gigs at Google
with Vince Vaughn? Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. But but also and it's been years since I've sat down and watched it, but Behind Enemy Lines. Oh, okay. It's Owen Wilson in an action role from like 1999 or something like that. It's and that's like, it's really enjoyable. So yeah, I mean, it's he's not one of the ones that pops up, when somebody says, who's your favorite actor? Because he's not as flashy as like a Chris Evans or an RDJ or Hemsworth or things like that. But he's just always putting out consistent stuff. Here's a hell of an odd reference. Drillbit Taylor.
Not bad.
You, Me, and Dupree.
Never saw it, but I heard good things.
I'm almost certain that's him. Hold on, let me fact check myself.
I think it is. If not, he should have been in it.
Okay. It is. And he's in that with Matt Dillon and Kate Hudson.
Okay. He plays Dupree. People.
He does play Dupree.
Of course he does. He's a Dupree.
So, I mean, he's just, again, very consistent work. I think when, and his role as Mobius, he's got that little bit of a charm that, like, I'm not going to try to do an Owen Wilson impersonation, but that, like, hey, let's see where it goes, type of thing. We got to trust this guy, and they're I'll say this about Loki, this first episode of the Sexy, they are playing pretty fast and loose with some of the quote unquote time travel rules. But then I thought, time travel's not real and it doesn't have rules.
That is true.
We can't put, I mean, they even reference Back to the Future in the Avengers Endgame, but you can't base time travel rules on a movie from 1985 that brought up a science fiction, concept.
Yeah.
Do what you want. And they told a really compelling story. I like I almost said the fart. No, the part when we first see Loki and he first encounters Mobius, and Mobius has no idea who he is, and you're like, what? Who's like who's wrong? Whose memory got wiped? Or something like that, and then you find out he's just in the past TVA spoilers, I guess, whatever, where he hadn't met Mobius yet. So Mobius hadn't met. So there was no, it's just really, really, I think, well done.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing the next one coming out Thursday or Wednesday.
I think Thursday.
Let's say Thursday.
Let's say Thursday, because I feel like unless they bump it up now that Ahsoka's done, and they want to keep that Wednesday release consistent.
It could be, but I know they have them set. I don't know what it is, but I'm looking forward to it. Last thing to talk about is another show that also started, but has more episodes out. Gen V, the boys spinoff.
They dropped 3 episodes. I don't know why Loki didn't do that. Oh, I know why. Because if Loki did that, they only have 6 episodes. Yeah. So they would have. I apologize for the phrasing, is they would have busted their nut in a very short amount of time. Gen V, yeah, they dropped 3 episodes last week. The 4th episode came out yesterday, Friday the 6th. Again, just as violent and blood-soaked and gory as the boys, but now we're dealing with high school kids, so it's even more awkward.
Dealing high school kids, dealing with none of these except for in the newer episode, for the most part, are comic based. These are all new,
right?
Powers are
bananas,
I haven't seen the blood power before. Now, granted, there's so many comic book characters and superheroes out there. I'm sure there's somebody that this is based off of. It's one of those almost like I think of like this, the Simpsons did it type of thing, where like it just been around for so long that you're gonna find it. But so they have, is it Maria has the power, basically the power to control her blood.
She can manipulate any blood, I think.
Yes. Well, and we find that out too.
Right. Spoiler. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. I guess we're not trying to spoil. Whatever.
We're discussing at this point. Yeah. If you're not caught up, again, we said this before. Little, hat in hand, a little self-deprecating. If you're listening or watching to us and you haven't watched Gen V, that's on you.
Yeah, that's your fault.
Yeah, they have a higher production quality. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, slightly. By millions of dollars. But so then you have the Golden Boy, who, I mean, he's kind of super strength Human Torch.
I would almost say, he's almost like the way that I envision, and maybe this is not accurate, but like when he heats up, I almost think like he has the power of the sun. When he chooses to, go supernova, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. We have I don't know some of these people's names. The person that controls metal, his friend.
Oh, Andre,
very good. We have the person that can switch genders, and
Jordan Lee
switches genders, and each kind of gender controls something. Like I think and I could be wrong with it. Like the female gender, I know she has like these energy blasts. She might be quicker as well. The guy, he seems to be invulnerable because when you first meet him, he gets shot, or actually she gets shot at first and then turns to he. We have the Little Cricket, I think her name was, who
Emma,
yeah. She is, can't think of Ant-Man, but however, if Ant-Man has to throw up in order to get small, which you find out fairly early on, it's like,
and then she has to eat to get back to her normal size.
Yes, and
what we see, pardon me for jumping ahead, in episode 4 is if she keeps eating, she gets even bigger.
Yes, so it's very similar to the Ant-Man / Giant Man, that type of thing. Who am I missing?
Kate.
For the main ones. What?
Kate, Golden Boy's girlfriend.
Oh, Kate. Yes,
who can put thoughts in your mind and basically like mind control.
Yeah. If she touches you, she puts thoughts in your mind. And by the way, I loved all 3 episodes. And when we were driving last night, you had seen the 4th episode already. And I had just happened to bring up, like, hey, I heard a rumor that at some point in time they're going to have Tech Knight. And I only knew about Tech Knight because I had read the book that I had.
Yeah.
And he was featured in there on one of them. And I can't remember what it was. And then, like I said, there was rumors about it. And you were like, spoiler alert, he's in the 4th episode.
Right.
So I was looking forward to it. And I even asked, I said, do they kind of go with what he does in the comic book type of thing? You're like, what? I was like, well, kids, don't listen to this part. But
I like how they and I don't mean to cut you off, but they say in the episode that he has a tumor that has caused him to develop as he was being outed, basically being blackmailed to get off campus, a proclivity for holes.
Yes, okay, that's a perfect way to put it.
like yes. Tailpipes and anything that's got a hole. He's
yes.
like, oh
yeah. So now I think they did him as far as his detective skills, like they should have been doing with like Batman and stuff. For however, because Batman's always the world's greatest detective, and there's not one movie out there that shows him as the world's greatest detective,
right?
Yet, but they were able to show it with Tech Knight, just where he can notice, someone's sweat, and he knows certain things that are happening, or
the way he was exhibiting his powers, talking about like sweat glands and heart rate increase. Was very reminiscent to me of
I know what you're going to say,
Daredevil or Matt Murdock.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I didn't know what you're saying. I thought I was going to go more Sherlock.
Oh, maybe. But I remember like maybe this is like the greatest example, but the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie where he's as Matt Murdock as the attorney, and he's like picking up on these faint differences in the witness. And he says, Mr. Whatever the guy's name is, like, are you aware that perjury is a federal crime? Because he knows the guy's lying. So that's what it reminded me of.
Oh, yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, he's picking up on the heartbeat there. Yeah. I don't know how many episodes of Gen V there's going to be. I'm hoping about 8.
Let me find out for you. I have no problem.
I'm also looking forward to The Boys season 4 coming back out. 8. And I don't know if The Boys season 4 has a release date yet. I'm sure it did at one point in time. Actually, you know what? Now I think about it. I think they were talking about like as soon as the strike was over, they're like going in and it's going to be like basically done, kind of. I think my guess is they probably had a few things to wrap up, but I know the big thing was the strike over, and I know the writer's strike is over. I don't know if the actor's strike is over yet.
That's a good point. I don't know,
but I think that's probably going to be coming soon. My guess is.
So because of Gen V hitting, these were manofmany.com. I just put in Google The Boys season 4. Says at this point, Prime Video and Eric Kripke keeping the release date for The Boys season 4 under wraps. The ongoing Hollywood writers and actors strike has further added. This was 5 days ago. I think the strike ended since then. It is expected that season 4 could likely return sometime in 2024.
Yeah, I can see that. That's fine. Right, January 1st.
Let's ring in the new year with blood and mayhem. I'll say this. In the most recent episode of Gen V, they were talking about Maria's powers and how they're not really like hero powers. They are that I've never seen that power, in any comic, in any medium, things like that. Folks, when I say that she can like manipulate, like, first of all, I don't, it's not my place to say, go on Prime Video, watch at least the first episode. You'll know how a scared 12, 13-year-old girl ended up in this position that she's in, because her story is tragic.
Yes.
But also we learned a couple episodes so is Kate's. Like, when Maria's telling her story and like, it's like, my parents are dead, like most of the heroes. And Kate says Hugin has the ability to like mind control stuff. Like she put her hand on her brother and said, walk away and never come back.
Right.
And her brother just walked. Like that's going to get you ostracized from your family pretty quick too. So it was just as tragic as like, your parent losing your parents because Krypton blew up, or like in Crime Alley, or, all these Hal Jordan's father, died in a test pilot, test plane explosion, things like that. Uncle Ben, let's go to the staple there. Like some of these are just really, really dark,
Yes.
And I don't mean to laugh, but it's just like, man, we are living in a world where I think people, maybe that's why my hope for the Superman movie when it comes out, Superman Legacy or any Superman movie, is can we bring some brightness back to this character, bring some brightness back to the, this world, because like Superman's supposed to be the shining example, right? I mean, he's the Boy Scout, but does he always get everything right? No. Does he make mistakes? Sure. But I don't know. Part of me just pines for that, Christopher Reeve Superman that, our world has, I think, evolved past, because we're all a little darker, a little cynical, more cynical now than we were 45 years ago.
Yeah, I think as far as Superman Legacy goes, I think it will be brighter. But as far as superheroes in general go, no, you need them to have a reason why they decide to fight crime or why they decide to do what they do. It's a very weird story if an adult just grows up and puts a bat costume on and starts fighting people. It's as weird as the actual Batman story is. It's even weirder if he doesn't have a reason to do it.
If he's like not maladjusted in some way.
Yeah, if he just that's a story of a person that needs to be in a mental hospital. Now, granted, you could still say the same about just Batman in general, but that's a different point. Spider-Man or Peter Parker doesn't start fighting crime. He doesn't become the real Spider-Man that we know of without Uncle Ben's death. If Uncle Ben doesn't die, he just probably continues maybe wrestling, maybe trying to get money on the side. He doesn't look and go like, oh, I have, to quote him, with great power come great responsibility.
Really excel at male cheerleading.
Yes, I'll be great at it. Yeah.
No, and I'm curious now, because I don't know. Like I don't know every hero's backstory, but I'm really, while we've been talking here, I'm trying to rack my brain to find any hero who doesn't have some type of like childhood trauma. The Flash loses his mom.
Yeah.
Captain America, it's frozen, and I don't know. That might not be the best example.
Well, I mean, war itself. I mean, he's
sure PTSD. Yeah. So I don't know. It's
Constantine has a very tragic backstory. If you know it.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. It's tough. But again, as a dad with young kids who I want to share, my enjoyment of it's even tough sometimes to just sit down and put on even a Marvel movie, because like, there's language in Marvel movies now, and like, how can we scrub some of that out sometimes? Can we have something that is truly all ages, or does everything have to be PG-13,
Well, it's all ages would be cartoons,
They don't have to be.
That's what you can watch as cartoons. As far as
plenty of that, by the way.
Yeah, and I figured. As far as the, I think most Marvel and DC movies are going to be either PG or above, but as far as like the backgrounds for them and stuff, like you watched Batman and his backstory, and about Superman's backstory. Now, granted, Superman's it's dark, but I don't know if they necessarily dwell on it. It's like, you can still look. I think in the Superman Legacy, they're going to have. I don't think it's an origin story, but I think they're going to probably mention. In fact, I know it's not an origin story. They're going to mention, Krypton exploded, and that's probably going to be about it. But you yourself, when you were little, I don't know what age you are, but you found all this stuff out, and you're like kind of close to being, normal, we'd say.
Thank you. You might be the first person that's ever said that.
Just so have your kids sit down, have them just watch
Gen V.
Have them watch Gen V. Have them watch,
Dad, what's a period? Don't ask. You ain't got to worry about it.
Is it supposed to work like that? Yep. This is all that happens.
That's why you want to stay away from those until you're married.
That's right. That'll get them.
Yeah.
Into therapy.
Oh, brother. All right, man. I don't have anything else for this week. I don't know if you do.
No, I think we covered everything for now. Hopefully next week we have topics, more topics. We had topics this time. More topics.
Can I ask a question? This has been on my mind. What's on your shirt?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So this is a podcast that I listen to called D and Dark.
Oh,
yes, it is
nice.
Combining obviously Dungeons and Dragons and with horror, or almost I would say universal monster characters. You have Emotep over here. We have Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster or whatever. Mm-hmm. By the way, if anybody it says Frankenstein, you know what they're talking about. Okay, just people out there. Don't be the person that says, "Oh, it's actually Frankenstein's monster."
Frankenstein was
nobody in their right mind ever talks about Dr. Frankenstein. So if you hear Frankenstein, they're talking about Frankenstein's monster.
Wait, sorry. The true James Gunn has said that the first true project under his regime is the cartoon that's the something creatures, right?
Creature Commandos, yes.
Creature Commandos, which has Frankenstein in it.
Yes, and Bride of Frankenstein, I believe.
But they're not calling him Frankenstein's monster.
No. Yeah.
They're not calling him a monster.
Then I have, not me, a Phantom of the Opera. This is the werewolf.
Yes.
I forget who this person is.
Okay.
And
is that the Invisible Man?
Mummy. Or the Invisible Man. Yeah, sorry. The Invisible Man right there.
Who's the green arm coming up down the... Or that's just a green arm? Oh, okay. Very nice, dude. I'm so glad I asked that because I was curious because I don't recognize anything. By the way, my shirt. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know what this is. This is the insignia of the greatest. It's the insignia of the greatest superhero of all time.
Wait, let me see it again. I didn't know it was the Flash. It's weird.
I gotta stop setting you up for that. I make your life too easy sometimes, Mike.
And better.
Well, thank you, brother. That'll do it for this episode of Nerds United, and we truly appreciate all of you for tuning in whatever medium you find us, because I don't know if this one's going to make it on YouTube. So if you're just listening to this on audio, thank you very much. But if this does end up in a visual medium, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We're around. We'll read them and probably not take offense because it's the internet. Who gives a crap? So for the co-host of the year, Mike Luther, right over here, this guy. And by the way, newest Husker fan.
True. Go Big Red.
I'm Greg Mahochko. This is Nerd United, where we remind you each and every week to be kind
and rewind.
This is a production of the Jittery Monkey Podcast Network. For more jittery shenanigans, go to jitterymonkey.com.